Hi, my name is Aiden Whitman, and today we're going to be looking at Ron Kind, the representative for Wisconsin's 3rd District in the House of Representatives. Now, a little bit of background info on him. He was first elected in 1997, but in 2022, he decided to not run for re-election, saying that he was just tired of it and didn't want to do it for the rest of his life. So, despite being an so this is more of a retrospective than anything. But the 3rd district that he represents covers the southwest corner of the state, like from the very bottom all the way up to almost the Twin Cities, but it does leak into South Central, including Wood and Portage County. So that contains cities like Eau Claire, La Crosse, River Falls, as well as Stevens Point and Wisconsin Rapids. It's a good mix of rural and urban areas. It's about 50-50 either way. And he's lived in La Crosse almost his entire life, with the exception of 2 years that he spent in Milwaukee working as a lawyer before he moved back to be the district attorney and later entered politics. He's being the veteran that he is the dean for Wisconsin's congressional delegation. And although he is a registered Democrat, he's more of a moderate than anything, and he has voted against more Democrat activities in the past. A little more info that I thought was interesting. He got into Harvard on a scholarship and was the quarterback for their football team before he graduated in 1985. And he's a first generation politician. Both of his parents were blue collar workers. His mom was a teacher and his father was a telephone repairman and a union leader. So he's very sympathetic towards the working class people within his district, and there are a lot of working class people within his district. And he has won 13 general elections, and 7 of them he got by more than 60% of the vote. He is very popular within his district. And in 2008, he considered a run for governor, but there was low name recognition. Very few people in Wisconsin actually knew who Ron Kind was, so he just decided, not going to do it. I'm going to focus on the bills that I've already enacted, notably healthcare, especially during that time. He was doing a lot for healthcare, and he has butted heads with Scott Walker in the past, but surprisingly enough, him and Nancy Pelosi haven't gotten along on numerous occasions. And he's also the member of the Committee on Ways and Means, which is a general committee on getting things done. It goes from infrastructure to taxes to trade. It's a very broad committee. Now, as I mentioned before, he's won by a landslide in the vast majority of his elections. Only 3 of them have failed to get him more than 55% of the vote. His initial election, where he had no name recognition, nobody knew who he was. 2010, which was on the heels of a small controversy he had, where a pair of doctors accused him of forcing him to pay him thousands of dollars to talk about healthcare legislation he was working on. Although nothing really came of it. And in 2020, which was a very weird year for politics overall. Actually, the guy he defeated in 2020, Derek Van Orden, is going to be taking over Kind's vacant seat on January 3rd. Now, he's focused his campaigns on being a bipartisan politician. He's painted himself as the common sense candidate who works with whoever he needs to work to and just focuses on getting things done. And on the flip side, he paints his opponents as radical, irrational, just not people you want to vote for. And it's worked very well for him. And he's also remained focused on his district for 20 years. He has been very involved in the local community. He's a hunter. He's a sports fan, particularly for Wisconsin sports. So that's endeared him to his populace a lot. Now, for legislation, he mainly focuses on taxes and healthcare. Those make up over half of the bills that he's put forward in the House of Representatives. But he does do a lot with animals and the environment. He recently introduced a bill protecting migratory birds. And in the past, he's enacted a few bills to help clean up the Mississippi River, which is right next to the city that he lives in. So he also does a little bit with foreign trade, but not too much. Now, descriptively, Ron Kynes represents the 3rd district pretty well. It's mostly white, over 90% white, and he's religiously ambiguous. It's assumed that he's a Christian, but he doesn't talk about it a whole lot. And the median income is around $60,000. So District 3, it's very white, very middle class, and he buys into that image a lot. And culturally, as I mentioned before, he's really got that down home image. He's the hometown hero. A lot of people just feel like he's one of their people that just happens to be working in Washington. Now, politically, he's a little bit weirder. He's a moderate centrist Democrat. Sometimes he's a trustee, sometimes he's a delegate. So he's more of a political than anything. Usually he votes with Democrats, but on a few key issues he did not. He voted against a ban on uh, assault rifles. Um, he got money from the NRA on a few different occasions, and he also put forward a bill to cut farming subsidies, the cutoff from $1 million down to 250,000, which was designed to help Democrats in farming states, but he wanted to take that extra money and put it forward to tax cuts and cleaning up the environment. Sorry. He also did vote for Trump's impeachment twice, but he did hesitate, uh, especially with the third district uh, heavily favoring Trump. And as I said before, he's a very avid supporter of the environment. District 3 has a lot of hunters, a lot of fishermen, and being next to the Mississippi River, a lot of people care about it. So he's done a lot in that field. He's also voted in favor of actions against ISIS and the Iraq invasion, although he did later say that he regretted it, saying it was the wrong war at the wrong time. It was just a bad idea. And both times in 2008 and 2016, he opposed Nancy Pelosi's appointment as Speaker of the House, and that was one of the bigger times where she did not like that. She did demand that he step down, and he just kind of ignored it. In conclusion, he spent 20 years in the House as a clean, reasonable politician. Uh, he's acted more of a political than anything, just focusing on getting things done, and he never really gained a reputation, I suppose you could say. He was never a guy who was in the headlines. Most of the time when he was in national news, it was when he announced that he was not going to be running for a re-election. But he does leave behind a legacy of bipartisanship and sensibility, being a reasonable man, just trying to get things done. And I personally think that he's done a very good job representing the third district of Wisconsin. And I got my information from the GovTrack US website, his professional and election website, as well as the official Congress government website.